So now we're going to tackle about forecasting. As you can see, the TQM, JIT philosophy, and forecasting are three related topics. First, because you cannot do anything without the forecast, because this forecast is so important because it determines the the future of the business or the future of the market, kung pila imong need nga i-acquire or unsa ang demand sa future. Now, forecasting is one of the most important business functions because, as what I have said, all other business decisions are based on forecasts of the future. Decisions such as which markets to pursue, which products to produce, how much inventory to carry, and how many people to hire all require a forecast. What happened, go back to punta sa milk tea business. In the time where the milk tea business is booming, a lot of people, a lot of small entrepreneurs engage into such business, not knowing that someday, somehow, pila ka years or months after that, mo-vanish na po na siya nga trend. So that's the importance, that's how important forecasting is. Dapat imuhang i-vision imuhang self sa future. Is this business sustainable? Is this business good for seasons only? So that's it. That's why forecast is really important. It brings tremendous impact on the business that you're gonna put up. So these are the common features to forecasting models. First is that forecasts are rarely perfect. So just like kanang mga weather forecast, good, it's not perfect. It's not dili pasabot buot pasabot nga mingon si Kuya Kim nga muuwan alas 10 muuwan jud siya. It could be 11 pa or earlier. So forecasts are not perfect, but they're important though. So now, second is forecasts are more accurate for groups or families of items rather than for individual items. So when you do forecasting, it's better to group it kay mas concrete siya or mas accurate siya compared to individual items. Kay mag-individual forecast ka, the changes or the kanang tendency of change is higher than those of nasa group. Kay intact sila. Then forecasts are more accurate for shorter than longer time horizons. Forecasts is more accurate in shorter terms than longer horizons. Of course, our market nowadays is ever-changing, flexible. Dali ra kayo ma-change the trends, unsay uso, unsay new. It changes from time to time. So that's why mas accurate ang forecast in shorter periods than in longer times. And then here are the 5 steps on conducting a forecast or forecasting method. First is decide what to forecast. Of course, you have to decide unsay mong i-forecast. Then second, evaluate the analyze appropriate data. You have to select and test the forecasting model. So there are several forecasting models find in your modules na pwede na to gamiton in forecasting. We have the quantitative, qualitative, and I'm gonna be discussing it, don't worry. Then fourth is generate the forecast. You have to generate after selecting the test forecast model, and then you have to monitor the forecast accuracy. It doesn't mean nga na mo na-generate na forecast, mauna na siya, because as what I have said, the market today is fluctuating. It's changing. It's like a river na kanang the water flows, so it goes on and on and on. So that's it. Nag-change, kapunay nag-change. So that's why you have to monitor your forecast if accurate pa ba na siya. Okay? There are forecast nga imong gibuhat last month na dili na accurate karon nga month, or na kay mga forecast nga gina-conduct last year that is no longer more accurate in this year or in the future. So nga na. So there are, as what I've said, two types of forecasting. First is the quantitative forecasting and the qualitative forecasting. So for quantitative, it is often called judgmental methods. methods in which forecast is made subjectively by the forecaster. So, this forecast is mag-base sa prediction or mag-base sa judgment sa isa ka entity or person perhaps. Then we have the qualitative forecasting. Ay, nabali din siya. Sorry guys. It's quantitative. It's the forecast that is based on mathematical modeling. When kinitag quantitative, quantity, mathematical. So, pardon me for that. And qualitative is those na often using judgments. Then, sa quantitative, because mathematical is used or mathematical methods are used, these methods are consistent. The same model will generate the exact same forecast from the same set of data every time. So, more na mag-research, mas consistent ang numbers kaysa sa opinions. So, if do mag-research, pohon, you will choose as to quantitative ba or qualitative. But sa consistency, quantitative is more consistent because it's based on number, while qualitative is more on personal judgment. It's biased, by the way. So here, qualitative forecasting is mono to kong ingon based on judgment. I was wrong ganina na wrong ko. So what's qualitative, quantitative, and then quantitative? Remember the word quantity. It means numbers or mathematical figures. So there are 3 types of qualitative: the executive opinion, market research, and Delphi method. Sa executive opinion, forecasting method in which a group of managers collectively develop a forecast. So it's the opinion of the executive or the opinion of the heads sa ilahang tanaw sa aning situation. So mo na ang executive opinion from the word executive. And then market research approach to forecasting that relies on surveys and interviews to determine customer preferences. So, mao ni ang mag-interview silang mga customers. And in the Delphi method, approach to forecasting in which a forecast is the product of a consensus among a group of experts. So, experts are invited for this kind of forecasting or for this method. Then, sa quantitative, katong magamit na taong numbers, method, data. So, data, there are also 2 types. Time series model, which is based on the assumption that forecasts can be generated from information contained in a time series of data, a series of observation taken over time. So, kanabit ang mga graph, bar graph, like for example, nisaka ang rate sa teenage pregnancy. So, makita na to adto from ang forecast, ang data from 2010 to 2020. So, naay time series or naay series of surveys of results over time. Then, sa casual models, is based on the assumption that the variable being forecast is related to other variables in the environment. So, relationship. And then here, this is the comparison of the 2 forecasting methods. First is in characteristic, qualitative, based on human judgment, opinion, subjective, and non-mathematical. Kay, kuan man siya, bali, perspective, ang qualitative. But in quantitative, based on mathematics, and quantitative in nature. Then, strengths can incorporate latest changes in environment and inside information. Since, kuan man siya, based on the person's experience. And in quantitative pod, consistent and objective. It's objective. Okay? Sa qualitative, it's subjective. Able to consider much information and data at one time. Then sa weakness, bias, of course. Bias ang qualitative. Kay opinions may vary from person to person. And then quantitative, often quantifiable data are not available. Only as good as the data on which they are based. So, dili siya applicable to all. Kay kung asa ra na nga data na nimo na gather, that would be the data to be used on that specific cluster repod alone. You cannot use it on another set of data testing. So forecasting across organization. Now, forecasting is an excellent example of an activity that is critical to the management of all functional areas within a company. In business organizations, forecasts are made in virtually every function and at every organizational level. Budgets are set, resources allocated, and schedules made based on forecasts. Without a forecast of the future, a company would not be able to make any plans, including day-to-day and long-range plans. In this section, we look at how forecasting affects some of the other functions of an organization. So, forecasting is really important. It's intricate. It's something crucial. It's critical because kana may basihan sa paggama og budget, paggama og plan. So, marketing department relies on the forecast kung unsa ang product or unsa ang ilahang strategies para i-come up nga strategy para nga kana nga tawag ani product is mo sell sa market or unsay demand sa market, for example. And then ang finance department also, they would need a forecast so that they can allocate budget for that. And in terms of tawag aning planning sa planning department, schedules and all the day-to-day operations of the business, we also need a forecast para mo'y the forecast is like a map. So that's how simple it is to describe. So more siyag map nga ana ka magbase kung asa ka padung. Kung north ba imong voyage or south or west or east. So it's a guide, it's a compass. Forecast is really critical. And when you do forecast, dili po pasabot na nga sakto na gyud ang imong gina predict. It's not just prediction ha, it's an educated prediction na ay mga bases ana nga prediction, dili lang tagna lang. And when we say forecasting, dili siya 100% accurate, but it is somehow useful kay makaibaw man ka kung naa kay murag approximation of what to do and when to do things. So that's it. I hope you learned something from this term. And if you have questions, clarifications, and additional inputs, you can just put it in our MS Teams so your classmates and other members of the class can also learn from you. So thank you very much. Have a great day ahead.